Let me start off by thanking the Deputy Minister, Honourable Mr. Dina Pule, Chairman of the Board, our Deputy Chair, other board members present, and most importantly, you as an audience and our panel here that has been able to give some very important insights on the various topics under discussion, but all with one intent: to contribute to regional economic integration, but also ensure that we have a business-inclusive approach to regional economic integration. Now, I obviously would concur that in 5 minutes we will not be able to solve all the problems of the world, Geoffrey, but I do believe that it is in seeding these kinds of initiatives that we are able to arrive at solutions. As they say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And this is what we are really seeking to do as the International Marketing Council. Together with our partners here, African Investor, what we are really seeking to do is to make a contribution in our own small way to the whole issue of regional economic integration. And therefore, to this end, we, at the end of each of these sessions, would provide an event report that maps out some of the key recommendations, but also take the discussion or the dialogue to the next level. This dialogue started at the WEF in Davos in Switzerland, very cold indeed, but a group of determined people came together to say, how do we chart a course forward in terms of regional economic integration and move beyond just discourse, but really start to come up with substantive suggestions. And in that particular one, some very substantive suggestions came up, one of which is obviously this particular forum here today, where we've brought various people from across various sectors to continue the discussion. Suffice to say that we were interrupted at the time, and so we could not proceed, but we are here today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do is really briefly recap on a few of the issues, the themes that were discussed. As I said, there will be an event report that will be generated, but you also need to look at this as a series or a milestone in a very long journey indeed. And part of this journey will culminate again in our discussions with the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2012, where we will again look at some of the strides that have been made and some of the progress that has been made. There have been some very substantive and very important input given today. In summarizing this, I'd like to say there are a number of key themes that have come out, and I think central to everything that has been discussed is the need really for focus in addressing the issue of regional economic integration. Central to us as Brand South Africa is the issue of understanding that our destiny is inextricably linked to the rest of the continent. Hence, we would agree that the S in BRICS starts with looking at SADC and looking at the broader region, and that is central. The other issues had to do with capacity building, but also the need for champions and leaders of vision also to drive these initiatives. The need for consistent policy and creating a regulatory environment that is conducive to business has also been put forward. And I believe with the presence of various stakeholders here, including business, this message will certainly go across. The issue of ownership and accountability has also been brought up. And more importantly also that we do not need to reinvent the wheel. We need to focus on what has been done elsewhere and take those learnings and transfer them into discernible initiatives that can drive regional economic integration. Preparation, it has been said, is key, but we also need to have a private sector mentality and approach. The commercial imperative, it has been highlighted, is critical as far as these small, specific projects are concerned. We need to have a business approach to them if we are going to make the business of regional economic integration work. And the other issue is execution. Policy without execution is obviously not enough. So there is a need to focus on execution, and I believe what this speaks to is the issue of project management capabilities and the ability to really not only put policies in place, but manage projects effectively. The issue that has been highlighted also is that tourism is an economic stimulus and that it needs to be prioritized and put at the center when it comes to regional economic integration. Alongside that, I think sits agriculture, and I believe that from the discussions here, it's quite clear that between tourism and agriculture sits a very strong nexus, or there is a strong nexus between agriculture and tourism, which needs to be exploited if we are to drive regional economic integration. With 60% of the most arable land on the continent, it's quite clear that there lies a huge area of opportunity. The other is infrastructure, because you do need infrastructure to ensure that the regional economic integration efforts come to fruition. And examples of these have been some of the corridors that have been developed. And it is important that at our Davos discussions, the Minister for Economic Development, Minister Ibrahim Patel, actually referred to some of the strides and the initiatives that are being undertaken in terms of strengthening those regional transport corridors. Next to that is the issue of air transportation, which it has been highlighted is very important in so far as tourism is concerned. But this all really speaks to the issue to put in place infrastructure, regulatory frameworks that will be conducive to such infrastructure development. Various sectors have been isolated as key and central, and one of which is obviously power. Renewable energy has been highlighted as an area of strong focus and strong potential, which we believe should be pursued. Financial services, again, there's been a point highlighted there about increasing their networks, and also a caveat about the cost of financing, obviously, which is something that we need to take into account as well. So we would believe that the report would capture those things. A key element, however, in terms of our discussions for today is that for competitiveness, we need to work on issues such as ease of doing business. We need to work on regulatory environments. We need to work on leadership and champions that will drive projects. We need to work on project management capabilities. We need to work on issues such as entrepreneurship, as well as mentoring and skills development. So these are some of the issues, ladies and gentlemen, that we will capture in terms of the event report. But lastly, I need to highlight that out of the question sessions that we've had now, there are a number of I believe, pertinent points that also have been raised, which this panel here is obviously taken note of, but also you as all participants, we urge you to really focus on these discussions as you take the dialogue of regional economic integration forward. One of these, as I've said, is the cost of financing on the continent and the challenges that go with that. The other is issues of political engagement, as well as the need for domestic financial investment or resources, building your own investment from savings, etc., to drive economic growth. There are some specific issues that have been highlighted here in terms of simplifying movement, not only of goods across the entire continent and region, issues such as visas, simplifying visas, looking at incentives, again, the issue of air transportation, and lastly, ensuring that business plays a critical role in order to ensure that the business of regional economic integration is one that is, so to speak, business inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, with those, I'd like to really thank you for your presence here and highlight that the event report will be available, but that again, in giving true meaning to the idea of regional integration, that when we have these platforms, that we should present a picture of Africa as opposed to just South Africa. As the Deputy Minister has indicated, the fact that we are in the BRICS does not mean that we speak on behalf of the entire continent, but we can act and work with the entire continent, and it is important that in these fora we are all representative of the continent. I'd like to thank you very much and wish you a successful World Economic Forum.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.